Good morning, everybody. So glad you decided to join us today. I'm Mike Nelson, part of the arts and production team here at good old Kensington. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about may not seem like it's for everyone, but it is. Mark on your calendars, June 3rd, drum roll please. It's our 9th annual Hope Water Project 5K and Fun Run. Now, you may be asking yourself, why in the world would I sign up for a 5K and how is that fun? Well, it is fun, and the reason is for a great cause. As a lot of you know, for the past 20 years, Kensington has had the privilege of serving the beautiful people of the Pokot tribe in Western Kenya. There are some incredible indigenous leaders that we come alongside with to provide help in wherever the need may lead. One of the greatest needs is clean drinking water. The area of Western Kenya is one of the harshest on the planet. To date, there have been 135 wells dug, which provides water for thousands of people, and that's awesome. But with over 1 million Pokot people, there is still work to be done. So, dust off those running shoes, grab some friends, and you still have time to do some quick training. This is for serious runners or people just looking for something fun to do while supporting and loving our friends across the globe. This is also a fantastic event for the whole family, a great way to start your Saturday. You can register at kensingtonchurch.org/HWP. At Kensington, we use the phrase move out a lot when it comes to impacting lives. It's about using what's in our hands, resources, gifts, passions, to love and serve others in the community. We have move out teams that are feeding the hungry through food pantries and community gardens, tutoring children and mentoring teens, coming alongside international students, immigrants, and refugees, helping single moms and veterans, and so much more. Recently, members of our Full Throttle Move Out team used their gifts to restore this pretty sick 1972 Mustang convertible. Now, instead of keeping it for themselves, which I would have done honestly, they generously donated it to fuel our Move Out network and the incredible work our Move Out teams are doing. So here's the way it's helping the Move Out network and where you get involved. This bad boy is going to be raffled off with all proceeds going to the Move Out network. That's right, this Mustang could be yours. Now, for some of the deets. It's a 1972 Mustang convertible, 351 Cleveland engine, automatic transmission, Kragar 15-inch wheels, BF Goodrich radial TA tires, and air conditioning. The only thing cooler than winning this car, just in time for the Woodward Dream Cruise, by the way, is knowing that you are fueling our Move Out mission and multiplying our local impact. You can get more information and purchase raffle tickets online by visiting kensingtonchurch.org/Mustang. And if you want a closer look, this Mustang will be visiting your campus in the coming weeks. Keep your eyes peeled. Tickets will be sold Mother's Day through Father's Day. Hint, makes a great gift. And the drawing will be held on Monday, June 19th. So there you have it. Summer fun and make an impact. Hope Water 5K, 72 Mustang convertible. Check it out.
They got the rookies. Here we are, though.
Good morning,
everybody.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
This is a great day to be a mom. So raise your hand, Amber, if you have 6 kids. Oh, she really does. I know, it's a shock. But this is Amber Anderson here to do the greeting with me. I'm Susan Welsh, and we're just really glad that you're all here today. So good to see you. It's always a busy day back in K-Kids.
It's a great day.
It's just all the kids come today. I don't know what that is. Maybe the moms are here for the momosas.
Everyone's like, nope, you're coming with me.
Oh, yes, you are, because it's church day and we're going.
It's a good day.
So it's a pretty exciting day. You doing anything fun?
I'm planning on eating, because that's my favorite thing to do.
Me too.
And maybe sitting in a pedicure chair today.
Ooh.
Anyone else in a pedicure chair today, maybe, possibly?
How about the men do the pedicures?
Yeah, I don't know if I trust Sam to do the pedicure.
Good idea. All right.
Okay, we have a super cute video for you guys today to celebrate moms for Mother's Day. Check it out.
Changing my brother's diapers. Hugging me. She's really good at playing with me. Cleaning up. Opening jaws.
She's really good at being on her phone.
She's good at sleeping. 3, 22, 14, 13, 15, 88. I think 75.
favorite drink is definitely coffee. She drinks it all the time.
Coke, beer,
Coffee. I think it's like, she always gets like a caramel something something.
margarita, chicken pie, beauty, stop eating pill.
What do you want to tell your mama?
Mommy, I love you.
Come on, that is sweet. I have a story. This week I got my, you know how we get those tell about your mom from your kids in preschool, kindergarten, and Morgan said I was 100 years old.
100?
Yes.
Oh.
Which I feel that.
Well,
I feel that a lot.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
we
feel
feel
that
that way, don't
sometimes.
we? Women of all ages? I think so. It depends on the day.
All right, so Susan, what do we have going on?
Well, we have, drum roll,
All right.
with one hand, we have the women's retreat coming up next weekend. Raise your hand if you are going. Awesome. Yes, you are.
Now, how many of you guys have been to a retreat in the past? Yeah, there's a ton of hands going up. It is going to be a blast, and I heard that the weather's going to be beautiful that weekend.
The weather's going to be beautiful. There's some great speakers. And you know what? There's still time to sign up. So if you are looking to meet some of the other women here and just looking for an opportunity for some spiritual growth, seriously, go sign up. Get the weekend off. Let that be your present, actually,
yeah,
for
I don't
today.
think
What do
that
think?
you will regret signing
I
up.
think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So I hear that we had some women win some free passes to the weekend. Do you know
Okay,
anything
all
about that?
right. We have Liz Harrison won a free pass for that weekend, and Chris Reddig.
Yeah,
guys
it's pretty
won.
exciting. So there's someone here who gives a couple free passes to all of our retreats all the time. He's just like, let me donate. If you want to scholarship somebody or there's somebody who can't go for whatever reason, he buys them a ticket. So we got a couple to give away, and
That's
Chris and Liz
amazing.
won it, which is super great.
That's amazing.
So it is Mother's Day, and we do want to take a moment just to honor all of these incredible women who have shaped our lives. So some are bio moms, some are bonus moms. I actually had a great bonus mom growing up. Some of them are aunts, some of them are grandmas. Some of them are just women who have mentored us along the way. So Amber and I found a poem written by a woman named Amy Young that just really encompasses what it means to be a woman as we journey this together. So we're going to read that to you.
To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate with you.
To those who lost a child this year, we mourn with you.
To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you.
To those who experience a loss this year through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or running away, we mourn with you.
To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, tears, and disappointment, we walk with you.
Forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make this harder than it is.
To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, we need you.
To those who have warm and close relationships with your children, we celebrate you.
To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you.
To those who lost their moms this year, we grieve with you.
To those who experience abuse at the hands of your own mother, we acknowledge your experience.
To those who lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall tests of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst.
To those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year, we grieve and rejoice with you.
Especially rejoice. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you.
This Mother's Day, we walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have some real warriors in our midst. We remember you.
Happy Mother's Day to all of you, wherever you fit into God's plan. All of you here, all of you at home online, enjoy this day. And I would love for us all to just, if you have a moment, to think about that special woman in your life, whether it's a mentor. I know for me, it's Kathy Hines. I haven't seen her come in. She may be here. These are women who have shaped our lives. These are women who have prayed for us along the journey. So reach out to them today. If you still have them, take that time and make sure that they know how incredible they've been for you. So we're going to pray, and then we have something else, and we're going to get started. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Father God, we just thank you for each and every woman, Lord. We thank you for just the kindness, Lord, that has been bestowed upon so many of us, Father, by all of these incredible women, Lord. Like I said, Lord, the bonus moms and the bio moms and the aunts and the mentors and all of the women, Lord, who have given of themselves so freely, Lord, to help us, Lord, just journey So, Father, we ask for your grace upon them. We ask for your blessings. We ask for your encouragement, Lord. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, we have one more video to show this morning. We want to celebrate the mothers in the room and take a look.
I was working as an attorney. My husband had a big job shift, probably the biggest shift in his career, and we were drowning, to put it lightly, just managing all the kids and work and chaos and craziness, and it was fun but very busy.
I remember there's times where my daughter's dance competitions and my son's soccer tournaments fall on the same weekend, same times, and I'm not able to be at both places at once. So, you know, I feel guilty. I'm constantly texting my husband to give me updates on the game, and he's texting me about updates on the dance. And it's hard. It's hard to not be able to be present for every single kid's events as much as you want to be.
One is in football, one is in drama, one is trying to figure out who he is with the youngest one. And doing it by yourself is just a ton of work.
When my 3 little ones were very little, there was a lot of times that you felt like you couldn't be there for each of them for all the needs they had literally at the same time sometimes.
You know, my husband and I, we both work full time, so it's finding time to engage with each other as well as our kids. And at the end of the day, we're both just kind of grasping for straws for energy. Did I answer the question the way that I wanted to answer it? Did I show them maybe someone was having a hard day, and did I stop to pause to give them the attention or the words of encouragement that they needed?
So just balancing all of them and all their personalities and making sure each one has their time with me has always been very important for me. It's like the top priority of my list. So, but yeah, they had me running ragged, like nonstop. I needed to be cloned.
I think it can feel very difficult because you want to be all things to all of the kids, and sometimes you just can't. It's impossible.
So that feeling is rough, and when you have to say no, or maybe later, or maybe tomorrow, it's hard. That mom guilt is there.
With me being a single mom, like, I couldn't always afford to fly, right? Because a family of 4 tickets are expensive. So we are road trippers. It was always a great time filled with snacks and just laughter and just fun, you know, with the road trip. So that's one thing that they continue to cherish even today.
We would have a lot of times where we're just dancing around the kitchen, and it just feels like there's so much joy and peace, and you're not thinking about all the to-do lists and just having fun, and the kids can see that too, and they're full of joy, and it's so refreshing to just be in the moment.
Finding those quiet moments are so important because we are constantly moving. Our schedules are busy, especially when you have kids at all different age ranges. But just finding those quiet moments, whether it's in the car, or you're grocery shopping, wherever that time might be, just finding those moments to really connect with them. If that is a moment I'll never forget. I don't think any mother will forget the first time they hold their child. And then just knowing and just the excitement that my husband and I, when we brought him home for the first time and we shared him with Mason, or shared Mason with his brothers, they didn't want anything to do with him, but now they're all best friends and they love each other. But holding Mason for the first time is something that I'll never forget.
Held you there upon my chest, heart to heart and breath to breath. How could I forget? Before I held you, I knew I loved you. Before I saw you, I was sold out for you. I was writing lullabies before I ever heard you cry. I've been here the whole time. safest place. I will lift your head, and I won't let you forget.
So our goal is to make you cry before the first 20 minutes of the service. How'd we do? Oh, man. I remember the first time we got 3 kids. I remember when our son was born. You know you're going to love your kids when they're born, right? Well, you hope you will. But here's what caught me off guard is he hadn't been alive for more than, 5 minutes. And all he'd done at that point was cost me a bill. And I'd have given my life for him. Same with my girls. Remember when they were born, same thing. Twin daughters, instantly. I'd have stepped in front of a train for them. And they hadn't done anything, barely even been alive. I remember watching, my wife was an emergency C-section. This is TMI, sorry babe, didn't ask for permission. But I remember just that whole experience, that moment, I'll never forget it, watching the nurse, the doctor, pull out that little girl. I mean, just crazy. And I'm like, that was amazing, do it again. And she did, because they're twins. Those are moments you just never forget. We've been in a series since last week. We launched this called Measure of Success, trying to ask ourselves how it is we should be measuring success in life, in relationship. Are we measuring it right? Even asking ourselves, has the last couple of years of all the crazy that has consumed our world, has it given us a gift in that it's created maybe a pause for us or enough disruption that it allows us the opportunity to ask questions about reframing success? Have we been living for the right kind of success? And you think about some of the relationships, whether because of disease or just other issues in our own lives, that we've said goodbye to a lot of people, even at our campus. We've talked as a staff in the last year. We've seen an odd number of people that we've said goodbye to. There's a lot that's happened in the last couple of years. It's created a chance for us to pause and go, man, are we living life defining success, framing success in all the right ways? I think today, it's ironic and interesting that the subject today falls on Mother's Day, because today we're going to talk about, I think, a phrase that's become so cliche that it's maybe lost its potency. But it was biblical long before it was cliche. And the idea that success should be framed in us learning how to live in the moments we're in instead of always so captivated by what could be, what should be, and what's out in front of us, and missing what's right here next to us, the moments that we're in. And I think maybe it's ironic on Mother's Day because as parents, it's so easy sometimes to kind of just go through life as a parent looking for the next stage to come. And so my wife and I, for our oldest, he just moved out a couple weeks ago. It's a first for us, moved into his apartment. He's getting married next month. All kinds of crazy right now that we're trying to be mindful of, to live in the moment of. As a week from now, we'll be up north for his wedding. But it's just a whole new experience for us. And when he moved out, how many of you have been through that as a parent? Whether your kids went off to college or just moved out on their own. I don't know if this happened for you, but for me, I have not stopped yet thinking about a million memories of when he was growing up and wondering if I did enough to actually live present to him in all the moments I'll never get back now. Did I say yes enough to Legos? Did I just hang out with him enough? Was I too preoccupied with the stages I wanted him to get to that I neglected the stages he was in? So what does it look like for us to reframe the idea of success being living in the moment instead of captivated by the future moments that could happen, that may happen, many that probably will happen, but to the neglect of the moments we're actually in? Last week, we said that one of the ways that we often frame success is in a term that we use, climbing the ladder. We also said that part of the problem with a life spent climbing the ladder, whatever the ladder is, so we created all kinds of ladders, right? Financial ladders, relational ladders, sexual ladders, all these different ladders in life that we try to climb. We said the problem with the ladder is what we call the lie of the rungs. It's when you get to a rung that you get here, that's gonna do it. A sense of self-worth and satisfaction and success and validation for your existence. And what happens when you get to that rung? It tells you have to get to the next one. And then what happens when you get to the next one? It tells you have to get to the next one. And so we said last week that the lie and the deception is there is no success if you're simply trying to keep going up and up and up. But I don't think up and up is the only direction we tend to go to try to look for success. I think forward is also one of the directions we try to go. To get to future moments, future versions of ourselves, future versions of our family, future moments of our career, and we can spend so much time future-oriented that we neglect the moments we're in. We neglect the people in the moments that we're in. That we even neglect ourselves in the moment because we're looking to the future. So here's the task today for a couple of minutes. How do we reframe the idea of success around what has been biblical long before cliche, and it's living in the moment, present to the moment? So I want to pray, ask that God would speak. I believe he does. I believe we can actually hear him. And so ask that he'd give us the ability to do that this morning. Let me pray. Father, come before you this morning and acknowledge you as Lord, as King, as present, as before all things, at the end of all things, over, through, and under all things. And so God, in the Bible, you who tell us you are the Alpha, you are the Omega, you are the beginning, you are the end. I am thankful that in your vast array of size, power, scope, and glory, that you're not absent from us at any moment. That you who could be off distant somewhere else, you could be preoccupied with the billions of things occurring at any moment on our planet, let alone in the galaxy. You are not distracted or unaware. You are attentive to us. Your ear, your eye, your heart are all turned towards us. Right now, you're present, even to this very moment. And I think and believe you can be present to us in very personal ways. And so, God, you know the ways we need you present to us today. The things going on in our heart, the things going on in our lives, the things that preoccupy already our thoughts for the rest of the day. You know the joys that a day like Mother's Day brings up for some of us, and the frustration and pain it brings up for others. And so, God, in all of that, and in you being able to be present to us, would you give us the grace to hear your voice? Would you give us the grace and the ability to know you're here with us? And would you help us understand something more about you and us and what you've made us for as we open up the scriptures that you've given us? In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, this morning as we take up our offering, if you're new with us, a couple things. The way we do it, we have buckets that are gonna come down in a minute. If they come to you at the end of the row, if you could just pass it down and set it on the ground when you're done, then somebody will come by and collect those up from you. And just also want to say thank you. So much of this community is just invested in what we're doing because we really believe that what God's called us to is not just here in this building, it's actually outside of this building. And we couldn't do it without you. So thank you. And we would love to have you join us. If you're not a part of this with us, man, there's a mission God has given us, and we are full steam ahead on it, and we would love to have you join us. So all the ways you can do that are on the screen, and obviously things are coming around too, but you do what's appropriate in that bucket for you as it passes, and thank you. So my wife and I, Nicole, so as I said, we have 3 kids, and with our daughters being twins, we have 3 kids at 2 different ages, which I think has made some interesting challenges in the comparison throughout life. Oh, my son's here for Mother's Day. Welcome. Nice to see you show up. So your alarm didn't go off today? So 3 kids, 2 different ages. What tends to happen when you've got 3 kids at 2 different ages is a lot more comparison, I think, than when you're separated over a couple of different ages. Because there's all the, well, why can't I if he gets to? So we've dealt with that for years, you know, all the comparison of, well, why can't we stay out as late as he can? Why can't we drive when he can? Why can't we stay up as late? Why can't we watch what he can? And like, because. And so here's what I would do, what you do, right? Every time that there'd be the comparison, why can't we do what he can do, is I would give this very thoughtful, reasonable, rational, compelling explanation as to why now is not the moment for you to experience what season of life your brother is in. And in my mind, it was so reasonable that I always thought the response would be, wow, Dad, you are so loving and so wise. Thank you for looking out for our well-being. You're right. We should wait until and that's never happened, ever. What happens instead is a bunch of complaints that we're not fair, it's not fair, or then there's usually statements that sound more like threats, like, well, when I grow up. Like, okay, what? Finish the sentence. And so we've just dealt with that like you have as parents. And I think that one of the interesting dynamics of adolescence, because you are shoving so much change into such a small time frame, more than any other point in life, is that there is this constant desire to get to the next phase. Because you have so many things changing so rapidly in adolescence, it's really difficult to ever have the ability to just sit and camp in any moment, any phase of life and go, oh, this is great, this is good. Instead, you're always wanting to get to that next phase of life. Luckily, we outgrow that, right? Just an adolescent thing. Yeah, this is a mindset that never leaves us. I mean, you think about all the different phases of life that we go through. And the way that in those phases, we often have a tendency to just be future-oriented, where we want to get to next. So, I mean, if you're single, you want to be in a relationship. If you're in a relationship, you want to be married. If you're married, sometimes you start wondering what you did. If you're in high school, you're like, I want to be in college. I want to be out of high school. If you're in college, you're like, I want to be out of college, and I want to be in my career. Or if you're in the phase of starting a family, it's like you can't wait for that moment of seeing them for the first time, and you anticipate it, and then it happens. You're like, oh, it's amazing. And then it's like before very soon, you're like, I just want to get to the phase where they sleep through the night. When does that happen? And then they start sleeping through the night, and you start going through all the other phases that become very easy to look ahead to instead of present to. Like, well, I can't wait till they start talking. I can't wait till they start walking. Well, I can't wait now until they start driving and they can run errands. Or maybe for some of you, you just can't wait till they stop eating poo, I guess. But there's all these different phases you can't wait for them to get to. Then it's I can't wait for them to move out. And then I can't wait for them to have kids, and I'm a grandparent. Or if it's your career. Like, how often do you do this even in our career? It's like you're in college, I can't wait to get into my job, and then you get into your job, and it's like, watching that happen, you get all excited, you're anticipating. I watched my son, as a matter of fact, launch a business this last year. It's doing super well, super proud of him, but watching all that excitement of him, like, gearing up for that, like, what's that phase of adulting gonna look like for him? But then you get into that sometimes, and then you can't wait for the next job, or you can't wait for the pay raise, or you can't wait for the advancement or the promotion, and then you can't wait for vacation so you can get away from the job, and then you can't wait for retirement. And there's just this tendency to constantly look further ahead than where we presently are. And so many times, this is one of the uniqueness of my job. So many times I have had both the joy and the sorrow of spending moments with people when they're near the end. And I have never met anybody that wanted to go back and work a little bit more. Almost every time what I encounter, whether you're at the end of parenting or you're at the end of your life or you're at the end of whatever cycle it is, there's this thought and this idea often that comes out in different ways, but it usually is the same sentiment, which is, I wish I could go back and do it again. And I would just do it a little bit slower. There is a temptation within us, and part of it is just human in nature. But I think part of it is also cultural. We have taken what is human in nature and we have exaggerated it with how we have created our culture. And the temptation is to look so much for the joy of the season to come that we miss enjoying the season we're in. And I think part of what the Bible would have us understand is that a big way that we will appreciate, we will sit in, we will even soak up at a soul level what it means to experience success in life is learning how to enjoy the moments we're in, not neglecting them, thinking about striving for and only aiming for future moments. Can't wait until. And that's not to say you don't think about the future. You're like, well, I mean, we do have to retire one day, or we do have kids that have to be taught how to drive cars. I mean, there are things we have to plan for and develop. I'm not saying that's wrong. Obviously, we do. Nor am I saying it's wrong that we would ever sit back and daydream about the future, daydream about what could be for your family, for your career. I'm saying when we do those things, to the neglect of the moments we're in and the people we're in those moments, that's when everything can go off the rails. I would even say more than just go off the rails, that's when we tend to break things, relationally, emotionally, physically, mentally. One of the things that my son and I have loved to do for years is to mountain bike, and not just like ride mountain bikes. I like to ride my bicycle, but like actually off-road, single track, doing a lot of crazy stuff. One of the things that's unique about that, it's probably similar to a lot of other things, like snowboarding I would say is similar. If you ski, anything where the terrain passes and changes quickly, there's a skill you have to develop where you've got to be aware of what's out in front of you, but you have to be keenly aware of what's right in front of you. because the terrain switches so quickly. What will happen often is we'll take people out to go biking with us that have never really done it, and they'll end up on the ground, they'll wipe out from something, they'll hit a root, or they'll hit a rock, or they'll hit some feature that they weren't seeing, and then they'll go, I didn't know where that came from. Well, that's because you're looking 20 feet out instead of 2 feet out. Like, be aware, but you have to pay attention to what's right in front of you, because if you don't, everything can go wrong really quickly. Like last summer, my son and I went with some friends up north to Boyne Mountain. If you ski there, they do a downhill mountain biking course in the summer. And so there's this one spot, we were hitting these jumps all day long, but there's this one jump, I'll show it to you on the screen, where when you come off of it, if you can see off in the distance, there's like a green wall that you kind of scale up. Well, I kept dodging the wall because the jump is big enough. You got this big 10-foot gap. You got to come down. It's about a foot-wide ramp. So you got to be pretty particular hitting it. So the last jump of the day, which was my mistake. You never say last run of the day, right? So I said last run of the day, and I was planning, I was going to hit the green wall on the other side of that little hill, and I was going to go up the wall. So I was focused so much forward on that green wall that I didn't pay attention to the entrance on the ramp. And so I ended up going kind of crooked on the ramp, which means I left crooked, which means I ran into a tree about 10 feet in the air. The next picture was the result of the whole experience. Some of you remember because you were here. Yeah, I broke it in 3 different places. I've been out of a cast for almost a year, and I still can't do a push-up. I was telling Brad, who you'll see sing later today, I still can't do a push-up because I can't bend my arm back far enough. Totally messed it up. Here's my point. Some of us have been living our lives in such a way as to look so far into the future, you're breaking things in the present. Your plans for your career, or your plans for your family, or your plans for something that's out here that you're wanting to happen, you're envisioning happen, you're working for happen, that's great, but you're doing it to the neglect of what you're in right now and who you're in it with. And for some of us, that's where we've broken a relationship with our spouse. That's where our marriage has started to break. That's where maybe we've broken a relationship with our kids. For some of you, that's where you feel some brokenness. Exhaustion, you're tired and irritable all the time. Maybe you've put on weight, you look at yourself and you're like, man, I am not in shape, I'm not healthy, I don't feel well. Maybe mentally. Because there is such an effort to get to where you're not, that you're neglecting where you are, and you're neglecting the ability to sit in and enjoy the moment you're in. I think part of what is true success is not striving for the joy of the future so much as enjoying the beauty and the power of the present moment you're in. I think that Jesus knew that this would be a problem for all of us. This is not a generational problem. It's not just a certain people in a certain time in the world problem. This is a people problem, which is why one of the parables that Jesus told once, and when Jesus is telling a parable, I mean, this is him taking time to say, hey, this matters so much that I'm going to put it into a story in hopes that you really get this. So when Jesus is telling a parable, these are the times I think you really lean in. This is him saying that, listen, we cannot miss this. I'm going to put in a story that hopes it makes more sense. It's going to get to the soul. But he tells the story of a guy that's living in such a way that his focus is all forward to the neglect of what's present. He says in the book of Luke, chapter 12, and he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said this is what I will do. I will tear down my barns, and I will build bigger ones. And there I will store my surplus grain. And I will say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. And then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? So just break the passage down really quickly in a few different places. You've got a man who seems to be doing pretty well. Jesus even describes him as a wealthy man. And with what he has and where he is in life, he asks a question that we all ask in one form or another. His question is, what shall I do? He has stuff. He's in a certain season, a certain moment in life. His question of all of that, where he's at in life and what he has in life is, what shall I do with it? What shall I do with this moment? What shall I do with this season? What shall I do with my stuff? What do I do with it? Now, it's a parable, so this isn't a real guy, obviously. So there's not a ton of detail about his life. But I think you can make some rational assumptions about maybe the person that was in Jesus' mind as he's telling the story. So Jesus does tell us that he's a wealthy man, which could indicate some of the things that Jesus would have assumed, and maybe even his hearers of the day would have assumed about this person. For example, as a wealthy man, this is a guy who has learned how to be successful. He's climbed ladders. He's climbed them well. This is probably a man who's in middle age. He's probably got a family. He's been successful. He's got a reputation. He's probably well thought of in the community. This is a good man. So I want you to hear this. This is not Jesus painting a picture of a guy that's gone and jacked up his life. This is a good man. And I also be clear that it doesn't make him a bad man at any point because he has stuff and he's scaled ladders and he's acquired things. Matter of fact, even some of you, I would say God has gifted many of you with an incredible ability to scale ladders, and you've done well, and you've amassed things. And some of you, like we talked about last week, you have learned the joy of using what you have gotten up those ladders for eternal purposes, not just temporal, and for other people, not just yourself. So none of this yet makes a problem for this guy. The fact that he has acquired things, he's climbed ladders, he's been successful, none of that's the problem. The problem comes on the heels of the question he asks. What shall I do? I've got stuff, seem to be in a good season of life. What should I do with the season and the stuff that I have and that I am in? To me, I think the answer would be obvious. Enjoy it. But what he ends up concluding is what we so often end up concluding. And his conclusion is, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm actually going to withhold the joy I could have in the moment, and I'm going to forecast it for a future moment of what could be. And then, and only then when that moment happens, then I'll feel success. Then I'll feel joy. He says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build bigger barns. I'm going to tear down what I've got, and I'm going to build bigger barns. And then, he says, I'll eat, drink, be merry. Then I sit back in the lazy boy. Then I'm going to go to the beach. Then I'm going to relax and I'm going to conclude, I did it. I'm successful. I'm going to feel validated. I'm going to feel worthwhile. He puts all of his hope into a future moment of what could be. And why does he do that? For the same reason that you and I have a tendency to do it. Because he looks at everything that he has, and after he says, what shall I do? The very next thing he concludes is, I don't have enough. So this is a guy that's made it. He's successful. He's wealthy. He looks at everything he has. He says, what should I do with it? And his conclusion is, I actually don't have enough. So he says, my barns aren't big enough. I need to build bigger ones. I'm going to tear these down. I'm going to make them bigger, which means I need to put more time in the office. I need more resources. I need more resources to fill my bigger barns. So that's his conclusion, is I don't have enough. He begins to function out of a scarcity mindset instead of an abundance mindset, telling himself, because I don't have enough, I have to work then for a future in front of me instead of live in the moment that I'm currently in right now. And I wonder, even for us, for you, like personalize it. Just to yourself, have an honest moment of evaluation. What do you think is the kind of the if-then moment for you, the future for you that you're looking into? As a matter of fact, maybe ask it this way. The three words that he says that I think are the three most dangerous words maybe in much of life, they are the words that often lead to some of our decisions that create many of our regrets, are I don't have. I don't have. And those come in a lot of different forms. Either I don't have enough success, I don't have enough reputation, I don't have enough status, I don't have enough notice, I don't have enough house, I don't have enough of the physique I want, I don't have a fill in the blank. It's the I don't have mindset that often drives us to labor and strive for a future moment that we will feel like then we can relax and be successful. So what would be the I don't have for you that would risk you missing the moment you're in, the people that you're with right now, because you're so forward focused? Because all of his focus becomes forward based out of the belief that he doesn't have. Now here's the progress of everything for him. He looks at what he has, he says, what should I do with what I have? And then from there he goes, well, I don't have enough. So then he makes a commitment, so I will. This is the progression that we go through as well. And so for him, his I will is, I'm going to build bigger. I'm going to work more. I'm going to save more. And then this is his conclusion. Then I can. Then I can relax. Then I can rest. And then I can be successful. I think one of the best ways for us to understand what Jesus is trying to say in part about success is that it's not just something out in the future, which frankly may never even come. Jesus' words to this man was, this very night your life is going to be taken from you. But it's to live to enjoy the moment you're in, not ignoring the future, but not focused on the future to the regret of overlooking the moment you're living in right now. So his conclusion was, I'm gonna build bigger barns. And I think this is what we do. When we're future focused, it's always about the bigger. I've got to build bigger, whether it's the house that's got to get bigger, whether it's the reputation that's got to get bigger, whether it's the retirement that's got to get bigger. It's always about bigger. What if he would have shifted his mindset from I've got to make it bigger to I've got to make it better? Instead of bigger, how about build better? If you want to laugh at other people's expense sometime, just go online and Google do-it-yourself projects gone wrong. I was looking up some this last week. Let me show you this picture. So, yeah, it takes a minute, doesn't it? You're like, wait a minute. So somewhere in the world, there was some guy that sat down one day and thought, I need a bigger house. Maybe mother-in-law was moving in, or maybe they're having a baby, I don't know. Maybe he needed the bachelor pad or guy room or whatever it is. And somebody decided, I need to make my house bigger, and that's what it turned into. I would suggest to you that is not better. But here's the reality. If our focus is only on bigger, you might get it and you might end up just putting a van on the back of your house. It doesn't mean you'll make it better. What if instead of bigger all the time, which is the drive of our world, what if instead our mindset was in my marriage, not change it or not just only camp on a future moment of it, the bigger, what if I'm gonna invest myself into making my marriage better now? What if your focus is I'm gonna make my relationship with my kids better now? I'm gonna be a better employee at work now. You're like, oh, you don't know where I work, I hate my job. Doesn't matter, it's where you are. Could you embody the mind of Christ and say, I wanna be better where I'm at right now, instead of just saying, Lord, get me out of this place and only envisioning the future? What if we shifted from make it bigger to make it better? Because I think making it better is part of what it means for us to live in the moment of whatever relationship, whatever season, whatever place God has us. Matter of fact, last week we read from the book of Ecclesiastes. Solomon, who authored Ecclesiastes, was the most successful, accomplished, the wisest king to ever rule over Israel. And he spent much of his life, recorded in the book of Ecclesiastes, trying to climb every ladder he could under the sun. He's like, hey, if there's a way to find satisfaction and pleasure and success in this world, I'm gonna find it. He's the wealthiest king to ever rule, so he could do it. He had a big bill and a big appetite. He climbed ladders, you fill in the blank, he climbed them. Got to the top of all of them, and his conclusion was always, it's meaningless. It's just meaningless. And half of them were empty because I'd get there and it was nothing, and it would just keep telling me go higher and higher and higher. But he also, I think, in chapter 2 of his book, starts to lean into some of what it looks like for us to possibly live in the moment instead of only trying to get bigger and higher up the ladder or further into the future. Chapter 2 of the book of Ecclesiastes, he says this, chapter 2, verse 22. What do people get for all of their toil and their anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All the days of their work are grief and pain. Even at night, their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. So he's saying you can strive for just the bigger. You can strive for the future. I'm just going to get to the future version. I'm going to see it only in the future, not live in the moment. He says, you know what that is? It's anxious living. It's restless nights. It's stressful days. Why? Because it's all, I have to get there. I have to work harder. It's not yet. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. He says that's one way to live. Or a person can do nothing better than to eat, drink, and find satisfaction in their own toil. Chapter 4, he also begins to bring in the relational dynamic. He says, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man who was all alone, who had neither son nor brother, and there was no end to his toil, and yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless. It is a miserable business. So I think long before Jesus ever told the story of the rich man focused only on the future, Solomon was already getting it. He was learning this as he would pursue God. And I think between Jesus and Solomon, you have a very similar sentiment that in regard to living in the moment or living in the future, you can live one of two ways. Solomon said it, you can live stressed out, irritable, anxious, restless nights because you're not there yet. Or you can live present in the joy of the three places that we usually put all of our future focus towards instead of staying in the moment of. And those three places are what you have, who you have, and what you do. You think about anything that you and I lay our efforts towards to get to in the future, it usually falls in one of those three areas. Either the stuff you have, the people in your life, or what you do. So let me give you a couple of real quick descriptors, and then I want to give you a few questions, kind of help us consistently orient back to living in the moment. So when you think about what you have, in the Bible, there's a young man named Timothy, young pastor, mentored by a guy named Paul. They would correspond back and forth, and in one of the letters, Timothy would write this on your screen. True godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. This is where I want to stop for a minute. True godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. So we're in church, like this is church. This is about pursuing God. This is, for some of you, this is religion, right? And so what would you assume would be the task, the goal, the objective? I guess to be godly, to be godlike, godliness. Isn't it interesting that God himself chooses in his sovereignty in the Bible to connect godliness with contentment? In other words, it's possible to actually have godliness without contentment. But he says when you put godliness and contentment together, what does that equal? Wealth. Not only does he attach godliness and contentment, but he says the conclusion of this addition, if you want true wealth, if you want true satisfaction, if you want a true sense of worthwhile, here's what you do. You learn to live content with what you have. Does that mean you never get more, you never want more, you never develop more, you never upgrade to more? No. But you know, and only you will ever know at the pit of who you are, what's driving that. And Timothy says, you can combine godliness with contentment, you have great wealth. But this has been, you go all the way back to the beginning of our story, this has been one of the struggles since there was only two of us on the planet. Our ancestors, Adam and Eve, this is what broke everything, is the lie that they didn't have enough that they fell victim to. When Satan entered the garden, the first lie that he spoke to them was essentially, God's not giving you everything that you need. Knowledge of tree and evil, he said, leave alone. What'd Satan say? He's holding out on you. He really hasn't given you everything you need. Now, imagine this. They're in paradise. It doesn't get better. Animals do what they're supposed to do. Dogs don't go in the house. The sun is always perfect. The sky is blue. It's paradise. But they fell victim to the lie that God hadn't given them enough. And they needed more. And that lie not only broke everything in that moment, it has plagued humanity ever since. This belief that we just need more. God hasn't given us enough. The ancient Israelites, the Hebrew people, they were a constant study of this reality and this dilemma. I mean, always when God would provide something for them in very tangible, real ways, within minutes, a hot minute sometimes, they're like, not enough, we need more. And they fell out of contentment. Probably the greatest example of which was when they were for 400 years in slavery, falling back on the old promises and prophecies that God would rescue them, would have a nation for them, would be their people. You start to give up after 400 years. But they're at 400 years anticipating something's got to change, and God shows up, he hears their cries, he leads them out of captivity, makes them a promise. I'm going to be your God. You're going to be my people. I'm not just going to take you to a broken neighborhood. I'm going to give you an incredible land flowing with resources. Like he's saying to them, I'm going to give you everything you need. And then he shows up in an undeniable way. It's not like, where are you, God? Pillar of fire, pillar of cloud. There he is. He's giving everything to them, including himself. And what do within a minute? They start to complain. It's not enough. We want more. Even while they were at the brink of the mountain upon which God and Moses would interact, where he would give to Moses the instructions that would then govern them as a nation and as a people, what are they doing while that's happening? They're building a golden calf. They're like, well, I don't know if God's given us enough. They're whining, they're complaining. Everybody pulls their resources, they melt it down, they build a golden cow, and they start praying to it. All of that encompassed really this idea that God's not giving us enough, so we're gonna put our hope in this cow to do enough for us. It's a good thing that we're advanced enough as a people that we don't put the future hope of ourselves into a golden cow anymore. Is it possible that part of the reason some of us don't feel a level of success in life is because we haven't learned to attach to godly pursuit contentment with what he's given us? But it's not just with what we have, it's also with who we have. There's a family I heard a story about this last year that moved from Germany and became a part of one of our campuses with the plan to completely and permanently relocate to the States. And after 6 months, they made the decision. They shared with the campus pastor at the campus they're at that they were moving back to Germany. And they had a couple of reasons, but one of which that was right at the top of the list, just really, I think it's a sobering reality of our world. They said after being here for 6 months, we realized that the American way of life is too busy for us to make friends. And you know it as well as I do. How often do we struggle to put the people into our calendar that matter most in our life? And we always say things like, well, it's a busy season. I think Nicole and I, we've been married, it'll be 27 years this year. I think we've been saying it's a busy season for 27 years. And we realize it's a busy season because we let it be a busy season. And I know it's difficult to figure out how do we make it not such a busy season. But the truth is, we live in a way in this culture that necessitates almost that we overwhelm ourselves so much with what we have to get to, where we have to be, stuff out in front of us, that we often neglect who we have right here in our lives. And there is no greater wealth than the people you have in your life. I think there's probably no greater tool that robs us from the people in our lives than the one that most of us have in our pocket or purse right now. You think about all the advancements in the last number of years. Are there any that have possibly robbed us more from being present to the people in our lives than our phones? And I love my phone. I probably love it too much. I love what it can do. I love the resources of it. So this isn't like, go get rid of your phone, but it is put it down more often. I just wonder how much we're looking so much at this that we're neglecting the people around us. Matter of fact, let me show this picture to you. This group of people in England that before she died were trying to get a view of the Queen of England. You notice anything interesting about the picture? Every single person on there is either looking at their phone or aiming their phone or holding a phone, but one. Look at that woman right in the center with her purple glasses. And I'm not trying to make more than this is, but her face looks different than every other face. Everybody else is there, but she's in the moment. I wonder what else in your life is possibly robbing you from the people around you. Present in the moment to what you have, to who you have, and to what you do. I think if I look over the course of my life, probably some of my biggest regrets are times that I have been what I do in a job that I didn't want to be in, and I neglected and overlooked the fact that it's exactly where God wanted me. And because I wanted to be somewhere else or a different job or a different area of that job, I put all my focus forward instead of saying, God, maybe this isn't where I want to be, but if it's where you want me to be, how do I live present to this moment? Even years ago, probably my biggest regret in that is working at a steakhouse when I was in college. I was going to college to be a pastor. That's all I wanted to do. I did not want to wait tables, but it paid the bills. I hated the fact that my whole livelihood depended on how good someone else's day was. If they had a good day, they tipped better. So I hated it. And all I did was whine and complain all the time. I ended up literally almost by accident developing one of my lifelong friends, a guy named Jeremy and his wife, who would eventually become friends with Nicole and I, and their kids, and our kids have grown up together. Watch God do amazing things to draw Jeremy to himself and then draw Jen. And I mean, they've been world-changing kind of people. That literally happened by accident. It wasn't because I was intentional to go, well, God's got me here, so I'm gonna be present to the moment, present to the people here. It was like God kind of just threw him in my face and was like, stop complaining, make a friend and share me with him. And I think back sometimes, if I would have actually lived present to what I did and to who I did it with, if by accident I was able to form a friendship, this is one of the guys that will be one of my pallbearers one day. If I was able to form a friendship in him and see what God did to draw him into relationship with himself, what would have happened if I would have been intentional and lived in that place that God had me, even though it wasn't where I wanted to be, and even though eventually I'd be moving forward? Let God take care of that. What if I would have just stayed present to the moment? So I just want to give you a couple questions, because this isn't going to fix itself in 30 minutes of you and I together. I think that we have to regularly, daily maybe even more than just daily, We've got to ask ourselves a series of questions to help reorient us on how to live present to the moment and get our eyes so much off of what could be, what should be, and what's future out in front of us. So let me give them to you really quickly. Encourage you to take pictures of these. First is this. What is my current when-then focus that's robbing me of the moment? For this guy, it was when I have bigger barns, more stuff, then I can relax. What's yours? In your mind, there is something that you believe, when this happens, then I will have achieved a different level of success, satisfaction, validation, self-worth. But I will tell you this, it's robbing you of certain joy in the moment. So what is it for you? Question number 2, what's beautiful about right now? I know that there's some things that aren't beautiful for all of our lives. And I know for some of you, if you were to do the scales, maybe your scale at this season of life would tip heavier on not beautiful. But there is something beautiful in your life right now. And we much more naturally look to what's not beautiful and what is frustrating than to what is beautiful. There's a verse in the Bible written by David. He was the father of Solomon. And David in chapter 118, he connects a few things together that are very interesting about success in the day. He says, this is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Please, Lord, please save us. Please, Lord, interesting, please give us success. So David attaches the idea of success to the ability to live present to the day that you're in. This is the day the Lord has made, so I will rejoice and be glad in it. Not, this is the day that the Lord has made, but it kind of sucks, so I'm waiting for tomorrow. No, this is the day the Lord has made. And so I will rejoice in this day. And David attaches a sense of success to the ability to live present to the day. So for you, what's beautiful about today? Maybe everything isn't, but what is? Question number 4. What can I do this week to lose track of time? And this will probably be the hardest one for most of us. It will be for me. It won't happen automatically. You're going to have to force it into being. But what can you do this week to get rid of your phone, get rid of your watch, have no calendar that's telling you what you've got to do, where you've got to do it, when you've got to do it? Do something that just allows you for a space of time to lose track of time and be uber present to the moment you're in. And then lastly, I would say this. What would I do today if I didn't have tomorrow to do it? Again, I don't think this morning fixes anything. And I don't think even just asking these questions once do. But could we put ourselves in a habit of regularly asking the kind of questions that peel our focus off of the future and put it into the moment? Because I really do believe that part of the success our souls long for, part of the satisfaction our souls long for, is to live present to the moments that God has us in, not looking for the joy of the next, but learning how to enjoy the one that we're in. With what we have, with who we have, and with what we do. So we're going to sing a couple of songs. We're going to worship for a few minutes. And one of them is a song called Gratitude. And the whole idea of gratitude is the fact that we have been given everything by God already. Can we express back a gratitude? It's kind of what Timothy was saying. Can there be just a posture of being content and thankful for where God has us and what God has in our lives, even if everything isn't what we want it to be or what it will ultimately be. But then we're going to shift in the last song, a song called Jireh. And there's a line in that song where we'll sing, I've never been more loved than I am right now. And here's what's so powerful about the nature of God. As we're talking about the difference between looking to the future or being present in the moment, do you know God's present to you in this moment? He's not present to a future version of you that's got it more cleaned up and better. You'll never be more loved than you are now. Not, well, he loves you a lot right now, but he'll love you even more when you fix this, answer that, stop doing this. No. God's not looking to a future version of you to love. You'll never be more loved than you are right now. Even the God of heaven lives present in the moment to what he has, who he has, and what he does. May we learn how to do the same. Father, I pray that you would teach us long after this morning in our souls through your Spirit how to truly be people that know how to live in the moments that you have given us with what we have and who we have and what we do, to the joy and the satisfaction of our souls knowing more who you have made us to be, more who you have made us to do life with, and more how to do it all with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do, but every song must end, and you never do. So I throw my hands and praise you again and again, 'cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king. Yeah, you sing it. Except for a heart singing. We're singing hallelujah. I've got one response. I've got just one move. With my arms stretched wide, I will worship you. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, So come on, my soul, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song, sing it, 'cause you got Come on, my soul, well, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song. 'Cause you got a lion inside of those lungs. Oh, get up and praise the Lord. Come on and sing it. Hey, come on, my soul. I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I'm nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing. We sing hallelujah. Praise to you, Jesus. So I throw my hands and praise you again and again. Sing it. It's all that I have. And I know it's not much, but I'm nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now.
Going through a storm, but I won't go down. I hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me out. You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown. You've never been closer than you are right now. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. I will be content in every circumstance.
it's all about. So stay by my side when the sun goes down. Don't wanna forget how I feel right now. Jireh, you are enough. Yes, you are. You are Jireh. You are enough. So I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. You are Jireh. You are enough. Yeah. Jireh, you are enough. So I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough, always more than enough. Yes, He is forever enough, always enough. You are more than enough.
already loved, I'm already chosen. I know who I am, I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved, more than I could imagine. And that is enough. Oh, I'm already loved, I'm already chosen.
Already chosen.
I know who I am.
I know who I am.
I know what you've spoken.
I know what you've spoken.
We're already loved.
Already loved.
More than I could imagine.
More than I can imagine.
That
Jireh, you are enough. So I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. So I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough.
When Jesus really is enough, like really enough, not in like a religious way, when He really is enough, like everything else is too. Super glad we got to spend the day together. Happy Mother's Day. As you walk out this morning, we have a team of people that love to pray and pray for you and talk with you. If we can serve you that way, they're going to be up front, and there's some as well in the lobby by the table, just with a sign that says prayer. And if we can talk, listen, pray, let us do that before you go into your week. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day. Happy Mother's Day. We'll see you next Sunday.
Happy Mother's Day again, Susan.
It was a great message.
Great
Happy Mother's Day
message.
to you.
I know. So good. We are so glad that you guys chose to spend your time with us. We had a blast here with our mimosas, and I don't know. Craig was just on it today.
He really was. I love this series. I just love making sure as we think about how we spend our time
Yep.
and how we spend our money and the things we worry about, like, does that truly measure the success that is important to us? And
Exactly.
I think a lot of times it doesn't.
Nope.
So
I know.
say hey to your neighbor today. Take
That's
some time
right.
to meet people.
I
For
couldn't
sure.
agree more. Yeah. That's my takeaway too.
Yeah.
Hope it's a wonderful Mother's Day for everybody, and we will be back next week to
Yep.
round out this series.
Looking
Have a great
forward
one,
to it.
guys.
Oh, by the way, no students tonight.
Oh.
So students, don't come.
Don't come.
Do
Be with your
not.
moms. Do
Yep.
that. They would love it.
See ya.
Bye.